Good evening. Going to call to order the Cuyahoga County Council regular meeting for Tuesday, April the 22nd. And clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Germana?
Here.
Mr. Gallagher? Mr. Schron?
Here.
Ms. Conwell?
Here.
Jones?
Here.
Mr. Hairston? Here. Ms. Simon? Ms. Conley? Ms. Conley is absent this evening. Mr. Greenspan? Mr. Miller? And Mr. Brady?
Here.
Quorum.
All right. Now for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Chair? Hold on. We next will be looking for a motion to excuse Council President Conley's absence. Councilman Schron has moved it, and Councilwoman Conwell has seconded it. Is that what you were intending to do, Councilman Miller? Okay, thank you. Council President is excused. She is out of town. Now we'll have our silent meditation this evening. Hopefully nobody's offended. We'll meditate on recent holy days.
Here's the dynamo duo audience. Last night, now they come out here to bang us. Tell your friends.
Is there any public comment related to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, Reverend Pamela M. Pinckney has requested to speak. It's regarding budget expenditures and other concerns. I'm assuming it's related to the agenda, Ms. Pinckney?
This is public comment related to the
Yes,
agenda.
yes. Good evening.
Okay, good evening, Ms. Pinckney.
How are you? Looking at agenda item 2014-13, I stated previously that I would like to bridge the gap between the church and the government and having some things done. And I saw that you all needed a break, so I didn't come in at the tail end when you were discussing the hotel. But some of your projects that you have, I would like to see, I'd like to have a platform or something set where we can have church and state come together to find out how we can bridge this gap when people are in transition. I know that we have a penal system. I know that we have homeless initiatives, but there's an in-between stage. And I have some programs in place that I've already established, but I'm not so selfish as to think that everything revolves or involves me. But there are other ministers that I know that we would work together to help you to get some of these things done. When people come out of the jail and other places, they don't have transportation to get from one venue to the next. They have lost their families. They have lost many other entities of their lives. And I like to see them healed and whole. And even though they have made some bad decisions, I would like to see them repaired and not reminded of the damages that they have caused or have incurred. And for 0007, I would like to know more about the University Scholarship Program because when the children come out of the welfare system, out of Department of Children and Family Services, they're supposed to be able to go to college, but they're not. And there's a big loophole there. And if they're in the system, then they still can't get into school. But if they're not in the system, then the system won't pay for them to go to school. And so some of the children that are coming out of foster care are not getting opportunities for college. For your public defender project. I am I just want to say thank you for having funds now to do more allocating for public defending, for people to be repaired instead of prosecuted. We have enough bashing going on, and I pray that you will come up with more funding that will go towards people being able to get some of these resources so that I wish we could shut the prison system down. I wish I could set all of the captives free, and I would like to work with you more on how we could generate more funding for the Public Defender's Office to get people more help instead of having them incarcerated. And finally, the last one, the Shelter Care Plus, the money is not being spent as it should, and people are in homes that should not be in, and Shelter Care Plus is not checking these apartments and these houses out as they should be doing, and I have verification of that fact.
Thank you, Mrs. Pinckney, as always.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next person is Councilman Zach Reed.
All right, welcome.
Oh, excuse me then, Councilman Jeff Johnson.
Sorry, we just made the last switch. I understand that first of all, to the chair and to everyone here, Councilman Reed and myself wanted to come over relative to the subject matter of the housing bond. My understanding now is that it's not necessarily going to be spoken to, but wanted to at least, if it's appropriate, have some comments about it, if it's appropriate. If not, okay, thank you. Obviously, throughout the greater Cleveland area, this issue of housing and the issue of demolition versus rehabilitation has been very relevant, particularly in the inner city. I have been one of the leaders in arguing for flexibility. And so what I'm really simply asking for as you consider it, and hopefully I can come back during your deliberations, is when you consider the language of the bond, that you create flexibility so that it can allow for not just demolition, but also demolition and mothballing and rehabilitation. And so I keep hearing something. Yeah, that's I'm sorry. And so what I need to be able to do is just request of you not to have just demolition language in use of the bond money. In my community, we are doing a combination of both demolition and mothballing, and also trying to line up for rehabilitation. I represent South Collinwood, Glenville, Euclid Park, as well as Nottingham Village and St. Clair Superior. And there's a combination of factors in which we will push for demolitions. We need resources, but we need resources both in rehab as well as demolition. And I've been fighting this demolition only or demolition first mentality throughout the county. I fought with the county land bank. I don't think they do enough rehabilitation. They definitely don't do mothballing. And so I'm just asking from a community that's trying to stabilize, particularly on the northeast part of Cleveland. We're asking for that type of flexibility, and we definitely support the idea of having bond money to come into this battle against this scourge of our neighborhood. So that's all I wanted to say, and I appreciate your deliberations on this. And I actually support, of course, our county executive's effort here, but really beg for flexibility as we deal with it once we hit the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Reed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, good afternoon. I am here on the same issue as my colleague, Councilman Jeff Johnson. First of all, I want to thank Councilwoman Conwell and Councilman Miller for coming over to our house earlier today, and now we're in your house today, and we appreciate that. First of all, I do want to thank the county executive for the initiative on the $50 million on the bond issue. But we're here because I represent the Mount Pleasant neighborhood. And the Mount Pleasant neighborhood and the Union Miles neighborhood, of which I have the opportunity to represent, is the most residential ward in the city of Cleveland. And therefore, we have a multitude of different housing available to the people in our community. So when this housing issue started, and this crisis started throughout this nation, when other people were getting a cold, we were catching pneumonia. Because we don't have a lot of room for an industry, we don't have a lot of green space, we have a lot of housing. So now, since people have come through with a lot of funding, the one thing they want to talk about is demolition. And what we're asking for is we're saying that we know that there's certain houses that need to go down and that they need to be demoed. But there are a number of houses that could be repaired and rehab, and by doing that, it would clearly create jobs. Because when you have to go in to rehab a house, you got to put a roof on. Most of the time, you got to put in the infrastructure like the furnace and the hot water and the whole lights, which creates jobs. And for those of you who represent the suburban community, just think about the aspect that you wouldn't like to come down a street like the street that I represent on 144th, where we've already torn down 30 houses. So you can imagine what that street looks like. So with the county executive's money, if you give it to the individuals who their first objective is demolition, 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 then communities like mine are going to see a number of vacant lots without the ability, until we get out of this economic crisis, to be rebuilt. That's not fair to them. It's not fair to the homeowners that continue to live on those streets, where we can take these houses, as my colleague said, some can be rehabbed, some can be mothballed, and some should be demolished. So I'm only asking, when the language comes to you, just to put two words in there, rehab and mothball. Because if you only have demo, 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 I can tell you the individuals will only use that funding, as they had with NSP 1, to just come through and just demolish houses without the ability to have in the language the flexibility that we're asking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any other speakers?
Here, no one
All
else.
right, okay, thank you very much. I do not have any announcements, but perhaps the county executive does.
I'll just be quite brief. Should I call you Mr. President? What? I don't know what to call you.
Be careful what you call me.
All right, Councilman. I'll just say, mention a couple things quickly. One is we had a press conference recently, as you may have seen, kind of updating the community on some of the heroin initiative approaches that we're taking. And this council and this county government should be proud of the fact that the district attorney or the U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Ohio, Steve Dettelbach, said that the program that we've put together in Cuyahoga County, which deals with the heroin problem as a public health emergency, not just as a law enforcement problem, but as a public health emergency, where we're engaging our healthcare partners like the Cleveland Clinic and University Hospitals and Metro, and also our social service agencies, but also law enforcement, is a model that the rest of the country could look towards as a role model. And so that was high praise coming from the Department of Justice. And so I wanted to thank the council for that. I would say also, as you may have seen, our medical examiner, Dr. Gilson, reported that in the first quarter of 2014, heroin overdoses in Cuyahoga County were lower than they've been for a quarter since 2011, but they are still unacceptably high. So we're making some progress. We're continuing to engage the community, and we'll continue to give you updates as we continue to progress. I'd say in terms of what this county is actually doing, without going through everything that we're doing, one of the things that we should be, that I just want to make note of, is that just as we did with sexual assaults, where we provided coordinated training for law enforcement agencies across Cuyahoga County to make sure that they were responding to incidents of sexual assault in a professional way according to the best practices that exist, which sometimes smaller departments don't have the ability to respond the way they should. We have now done the same thing, offered the same service to every single community in Cuyahoga County to respond to heroin overdoses in a way that treats the scene of a heroin overdose truly as a crime scene in terms of preserving forensic evidence, so that the prosecutions for those who are dealing heroin to our community can go forward in a successful manner. And again, that is something that small departments across Ohio or across the country typically don't have that kind of expertise, and our medical examiner's office is providing that training free of charge to police departments all across the county, and it's something that's been I think is going to be very successful. Secondly, and it relates to the comments that you just heard from Councilman Reed and Councilman Johnson. We did have a press conference earlier today on Cadell Avenue, and we were talking about this proposal that we have to make $50 million worth of basically financing available to address the housing crisis. And I would just say again, echo something I said earlier today on Cadell Avenue, and that is, I see the county's role as providing financial capacity to address this challenge. I do not see our role as someone sitting up on the top floor of our new county building and saying, this house needs to go, this house doesn't need to go, this one should go, how about this one, how about not this one? I see us as empowering local communities. It's the local communities, the local city administrations that need to decide how does it make sense for their community. Now we can have some, obviously we're gonna have some say into what the guidelines are that we wanna fund. But those, I can tell you as a former councilman and a former mayor, those decisions about what houses should be maintained, what houses should be demolished, are things that the local elected officials are acutely aware of and are uniquely positioned to make those decisions. And I don't think we want to be in that decision now, or in that position now. We do have, because of the financial strength of Cuyahoga County, we have some financial ability to help with that a lot of these communities do not, whether they're inner ring suburbs or the city of Cleveland. And that's where I think our role is to be played. So we look forward to the legislative process as we go through committee meetings to figuring out what the balance is between what we fund and what we, are we dictating the way this is working, or are we working in partnership with local elected officials? And that's an entirely appropriate conversation for us to figure out. We don't define all of that in the legislation up front because we've been having these discussions. And the last thing I would just like to say is that those discussions started before we ever introduced the legislation. In the last couple months, we have talked with city officials from virtually every city in Cuyahoga County that's expressed any interest in possibly using any of these funds. And we want to work with them on a collaborative basis. And we've also worked with a lot of the nonprofits and CDCs that are out there who have been working with the foreclosure and the blight problems that our housing stock has been enduring for the last few years. And they've been working with those challenges on a daily basis for several years. So we're working with them too. So I take the comments that were made as being made in good faith, because that is a discussion that this council and us and the administration will have to deal with. But I think it's important for us to lay down as a marker that the county is going to be more involved in settling this housing issue. One other last point I would make on this is that one of the questions I got after we had our press conference today, which I think is a great question, is the county resources being used for this, okay, that's to try to ameliorate the situation. That's fine. But we didn't create the situation. And why are we not holding some of the large financial institutions and banks in this country that helped create this situation? Why aren't they paying for it? And they should pay for it. And we haven't given up trying to get them to pay for it. That's something that there's been national discussions about and local discussions about, and our law department has looked at it. But that process is slow, and we have to decide as a practical matter how much longer can our neighborhoods wait for some relief. But we are not giving up on the possibility of recouping some of that money that we're putting out, because there are some folks that made a lot of money off of this situation, and they are long gone from the community, and it doesn't mean that we can't try to reclaim some of that money. That's a discussion we can have more in depth in the committee process, which we look forward to. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. We're going to revert to item 6 and the approval of the minutes for the April 8th regular meeting and the April 15th committee of the whole. Could I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
has been moved, has been seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Minutes are approved. And the councilman abstains because he was not present. Item number 9, legislation introduced by the council. Consideration of a resolution of council for first reading and referral to committee. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2014-0108, a resolution amending the 2014-2015 biennial operating budget for 2014 by providing for an additional fiscal appropriation in order to meet the budgetary needs of a county department and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This will be referred to Finance and Budget. Consideration of resolutions of council for third reading and adoption.
Resolution number 2014-0081, a resolution confirming the county executive's appointment of Michael Abusaro to serve on the Cuyahoga County Audit Committee for an unexpired term ending December 31st, 2016, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Any discussion?
Yes, Councilman. This is a 5-member board with 3 set county members, and the remaining are 2 residents of the county. 2 external members serve for 3 years for the members that satisfy the financial expertise requirements, and 2 years for the non-financial experts. Mr. Abusaro has an extensive background in accounting as well as financial operations. If confirmed, he will assist in providing direction and guidance to the county's Department of Internal Auditing, including establishing and amending relevant rules and operations. This committee recommends confirmation of Mr. Abusaro as a member on the Audit Committee.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 0083.
Resolution number 2014-0083, a resolution confirming the county executive's reappointment of Stephen Minter to serve on the Cuyahoga Arts and Culture Board of Trustees for the term April 1, 2014 through March 31, 2017, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt. Through the chair, the Cuyahoga Arts and Culture Board of Trustees supports a strong, vibrant, as well as a diverse art and culture sector through public funding and the fostering of a community invested in the value of its art and cultural assets. The Board of Trustees ensures enduring and reliable public funding and supports the arts and culture sector by awarding grants in Cuyahoga County. Each member serves a 3-year term. Mr. Minter has served on this board since its inception, 2007. He is a pioneer of knowledge regarding the inception of this board and would be an asset in years to come, and he still wants to do it. This committee recommends confirmation of Mr. Minter.
All right. All those in favor, say aye. All opposed? Resolution is adopted. Consideration of ordinances of council for first reading and referral to committee.
Ordinance number 2014-0012, an ordinance amending Chapter 701 of the Cuyahoga County Code by changing the title and by adding Section 701.02 and 701.03 to establish capital improvements and debt management policies for the county.
And this is sponsored by Councilman Miller, and we'll go to Finance.
Ordinance number 2014-0013, an ordinance amending Chapter 701 of the Cuyahoga County Code by adding Section 701.04 to establish a policy for any requests for new programs or services that require an additional appropriation as part of the biennial budget process or throughout the year. Additionally, Mr. Miller has requested to be a sponsor on this legislation.
This has been sponsored by Councilman Greenspan, and we'll go to Finance as well. Consideration of ordinances for council for third reading adoption.
Ordinance number 2014-0004, an ordinance replacing Chapter 701 of the Cuyahoga County Code to incorporate changes to the biennial budget and capital improvements plan process.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
My colleagues, this ordinance fully aligns our county code with the biennial budget charter amendment passed under the leadership of Councilman Jack Schron. It specifies the biennium as being from January 1st of each even-numbered year to December 31st of each odd-numbered year, and creates greater flexibility in how the second year of the biennium is handled. I ask for your approval.
All right. Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Resolution is adopted.
Ordinance number 2014-0007, an ordinance amending Cuyahoga County Code, Section 804.01C, Component 2, Post-Secondary College or University Scholarship Program, to approve revised geographical limitations on eligible institutions, to increase maximum yearly scholarships to $1,500, and to enable the program administrator to repurpose unexpended funds allocated for scholarships, and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
And seconded, and then do we have amendments?
I wanted to talk a minute about the legislation, why it's before us. This is component 2 of our scholarship program, or educational program fund. Originally, when this was established, we had restricted the geographical limitation of students to Cuyahoga County. Over time, I've looked at this and of the mind that this should expand the ability of students to match up what their talents are, what their potential is, which might lead them outside of the county itself. Although we want to make sure that the county is strong, we as well, from my standpoint, I have a student-centric view that we want to empower these students to be the best they can. And if that leads them to Oberlin for a musical scholarship, or if it leads them to Kent State for fashion design, I think the flexibility is really important to make sure our students really can achieve what they need to achieve. And it sometimes might be better for them even to get out of their environment here. So that was the rationale behind this, although no matter what we do, it's going to be a benefit to our residents. In terms of the, we upped it to the $1,500 per student. And lastly, you'll hear an amendment regarding if there is money left over, how are we going to use that money? And we'll hear an amendment on that. So those are the 3 components, and it's my hope that council will consider giving the students an ability to go outside of the county.
Thank you, Councilwoman Simon, and I understand we have perhaps 2 amendments, Councilman Schron and perhaps Councilman Germana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'd like to handle these one at a time, if at all possible, from the chair's standpoint, rather than trying to handle them, because they are not necessarily linked as far as the concept. I do believe in what we passed last year, and that being to use the funds that come from the general fund, which was part of our charter, to create a scholarship program here within Cuyahoga County. These came out of the taxpayers from Cuyahoga County, and the proposal that we had forth last year, which was passed by this council, was that if you're using the taxpayers' money in Cuyahoga County, that it should be used in one of the schools, one of the 9 colleges, universities, or 2-year institutions that are right here in the county. We have currently the folks from the college now who testified at the committee that last year we did have the ability to do this. This year it would be, they responded that of the 320 scholarships that they anticipate giving this year, the 70 scholarships that would be touched by our funds, the $1,500, they would have no difficulty finding Cuyahoga County residents who want to go to Cuyahoga County schools to use the Cuyahoga County money. And so with that being the fundamental basis in the background, it also goes further to support why we'd be using these funds, which then would contribute obviously to the economic development and the health and welfare of our own county, to go towards professors, to go towards the buildings, to go towards the operations. And with the remaining 250 scholarships that they would be identifying, they would not be restricted away from going to other schools, depending on the application and whatever their the requirements were. Whether they wanted to go to Kent State or they wanted to go to some other school. All we're saying is taxpayer dollars being used. We actually followed this philosophy a little bit, if you look forward to, or look what we did in creating a county business preference by saying that we would like to see funds directed within the county if at all possible. And in this particular case, it's well within the the discretion and the ability of the college now to identify these. So it's with that basis that I would put forth the amendment that says to amend the legislation, deleting Section 1 and renumbering the subsequent sections. So all that does is leave it exactly as in place. It's on our county records right this moment.
Second that motion.
Oops, sorry.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment that's been moved by Councilman Strawn and seconded by Councilman?
Mr. Chairman, I have actually flipped on this. If anybody's been watching the committee meetings, at first I was pro Cuyahoga County, and then I woke up on my liberal side and was thinking, just let's drop it and say I woke up on my liberal side, but then I came to my senses and this.
You have two sides, Chuck. You really are.
Well, I'm just explaining my flip, and really, it's Cuyahoga County money, and in certain respects, by keeping it to Cuyahoga County, it's economic development, because these people are staying here, and all the extra economic development, people supporting these students living here, restaurants, groceries, so on. Maybe these students working part-time jobs to finish this. So I think we don't have enough money to just fill every need for every student, but this is a special need for students, so I think it should remain Cuyahoga County where they attend school.
Is that two flips, Councilman Germana? Two flips, that's fine.
Councilman Harrison.
Mr. Chairman, it's also important to know that, to the point of Councilman Germana, is that we are elected here in Cuyahoga County to be good stewards for Cuyahoga County residents' taxpayer funds. So that is first and foremost my reason for supporting this legislation stay here in Cuyahoga County. Secondly, that when the college now testified, they also mentioned that these 63 students would have not received a scholarship from the organization had we not made this a priority to keep this in Cuyahoga County. And that these students were not at the top of were not at the cream of the crop of the students that received scholarship. And because we allowed for this money to stay in Cuyahoga County, it provided for those who were somewhat of the low-hanging fruit to be able to receive funding to attend college here in Cuyahoga County. So that those 2 points are important when voting on this legislation to keep it here in Cuyahoga County.
Councilwoman Simon, I see you're moving your microphone. I wasn't sure. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilwoman Conwell.
Well, like my colleague Germana, I also did a rethink or a flip, as you say. Initially, I was against it, probably because it was before me and I really had to focus and really look and do my due diligence to learn what side, and both sides make a good argument. But if I myself went to Bowling Green, and many of us have went outside of Cuyahoga County, and I know that the position is, let's keep the money in Cuyahoga County. But that does not preclude us, if we spend this money for students in Cuyahoga County and say that they're mandated to use the scholarship money here, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to get a job somewhere else. So there's all of our hard dollars anyway. So that, and also the second point is to say, you know, wonder if they want to go to fashion design, and we don't have a good school here in Cuyahoga County, or whatever design they want to go to. We were mandated from the people to put this money in scholarship funds for the residents that live here on an everyday basis to utilize, and I think we're stagnating them by holding back. So I flip to the other side.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments to make?
Councilman,
Councilman Jones.
I didn't flip, but I do support, I do support the amendment our Councilman Jack Strawn is presenting. Doing a short math, looks like we have a little under $400,000 at $1,500 at a maximum of $1,500. Maybe we can help in the neighborhood of 200 to 300, maybe a little over 300 students. But we have that many that are residents of this county and want to go to schools here locally. There are many more that are residents but also would consider going outside of the county. But with limited resources, I would support those who who are residents of this county, but desire also to go to schools that are part of this county. So I do support my colleague Sharon on this.
Can I just have a rebuttal on that? And I don't want to belabor this, but also when we're talking about loans and scholarships for kids, we're not fortifying and giving them a whole free ride. So many of our students need other scholarships, and sometimes those schools, they match on what the schools are going to give them. So that needs to be an important consideration when we're determining this as well.
Mr. Chairman, also to make a point, when College Now came before us to present, they also noted that they receive funding from other sources as well. So it would not be an issue to find funding for those students to go to this colleges and universities outside of Cuyahoga County. We are put here to, again, be good stewards over the taxpayers' dollars for our county. So it is important that we uplift and we inspire our students to stay here, and also that the students will also receive a mentor from Cuyahoga County as well, which increase the likelihood of them staying here at Cuyahoga County, helping us to attract and retain the millennials or the young group of people that we desperately need here to help with our population.
Just a final comment. Yeah, we did in committee. We've had Mr. Chair, we've had 2 committee meetings on this, but as a final note, we are stewards of taxpayer dollars, but we're stewards in this regard of our students and of the people. And in order to get an expansive economic development program in Cuyahoga County, it's important our students flourish. It's important that they can go to their maximum capabilities in education. And if there's a match to send a student who's uniquely gifted in music, they can come back and work in the orchestra. And College Now, I'm not going to reiterate all our discussions, but stated that these kids come back. Their homes are here. They don't stay in Columbus, unlikely. They come back here to Cleveland. So either way, it's a win. It's a good discussion, and I think we need to keep just monitoring things so we don't stay stagnant in what we're doing with the scholarship fund. It's ever evolving.
All right. Well, I think that we'll have a roll call vote on this particular resolution. A yes vote would be in favor of the amendment, which would require students to attend school in Cuyahoga County if they receive a scholarship, and a no vote would allow students to attend colleges outside of Cuyahoga County if they receive a scholarship. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Calling the roll, Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher? Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell?
No.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hairston?
Yes.
Ms. Simon? Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
No.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. All right, the amendment carries, and we have a second amendment by Councilman Germana.
Mr. Chairman, under Section 2, following the 1,500 number, I'd like to include this sentence. If the allocated and awarded funds are unexpended due to ineligibility of a scholarship recipient, the administrator of the program may use such funds to supplement the next amount of budgeted funds annually designated by County Council for Component 2.
And seconded by Councilman Greenspan. And I guess this came out of our experience with the scholarship last year.
Just explain what this means. The way the new proposition was that if there was extra money because someone became ineligible or stopped going to college, or in this case now, if they would be getting say a scholarship to go to a college or university outside of Cuyahoga County, then it would be split up to the cohorts remaining. And what I'm saying in my amendment is, instead of enriching that cohort, make it available to the next available kid, the students for the next year. Let's give more people the opportunity. So what I'm saying is keep it at 1,500 and anything that's left over, let it go to the next available students for the following year.
Mr. Chair?
Councilman Simon.
Yeah, we actually had to add this provision because we only had one cohort, and we had to decide now what to do with any remaining funds. And this is fine. I mean, we went back and forth in committee. I will support the amendment if that's what the council prefers, to have additional funds available for the next cohort.
Discussion on the amendment? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Amendment is adopted. Okay, we have adopted 2 amendments to 0007, and now we'll move the legislation. All those in favor of 0007, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The resolution is adopted. All right. Legislation introduced by the executive. Item number 10, consideration of resolutions for first reading adoption under suspension of rules.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move to suspend the rule.
Second.
All right. All those in favor of suspending the rules, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Rules are suspended. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2014-0109, a resolution of support for State Issue 1 to renew the State Capital Improvements Program and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Okay. Does anybody got anything to add to this from the administration?
Thank you. Bonnie Tewan, Director of Public Works. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to briefly discuss this and to consider the passage under suspension of rules. On May 6th, there is a statewide issue 1 that is a renewal of a program that has existed since 1987, the State Capital Improvement Program. It's a very successful program, basically putting capital improvement dollars into the hands of the local governments. It's distributed by our local District 1 OPWC committee, which consists of just Cuyahoga County. Over the last few years, the county has received on average about $30 million per year to use on capital improvement projects. Cuyahoga County specifically has on average been awarded over $6 million for projects that we have administered. So I would ask for your support of this. It's a program that's very important to the local communities. With the resources becoming more and more competitive with the local communities, this is a good program for the locals to help improve some of their roads, bridges, infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Typically, the council, at least up to this point, has not often, in fact, very seldom, taken positions on statewide issues, although this is not the first time. And we have shied away from passing resolutions involving, well, any number of issues that might be of concern to the community. This, however, is something that most of us that are old enough are pretty familiar with, and it has always, received strong bipartisan support, and certainly I have no objection to the council supporting this resolution for issue 1. And does anybody else have anything to add to this?
Move we adopt.
Move to adopt. Councilman Germano moves to adopt. And
Second.
we have several seconds here. Okay. Jones seconds. All right. All those in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, resolution is adopted.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Councilman Miller.
I just want to see if the chair might have interest in in holding item 2 momentarily until after we deal with item 4, which is the Shelter Care Plus item, because the administration has asked us for an amendment to item 2 that would add the $10,348,000 into item 2 as an additional appropriation as well. So you might want to have that Shelter Care Plus discussion first. So,
Councilman, I don't have an objection to that order of business. So why don't we go on to the next resolution?
Okay, the resolution 2014-0112. A resolution making an award on requisition number 30728 to Emerald Development and Economic Network Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $10,348,968 for administration of the Shelter Plus Care tenant-based rental assistance program in connection with the Homeless Emergency Assistance and Rapid Transition to Housing Act for the period May 1, 2014 through April 30, 2015, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second? Councilman?
Second.
Do you have anything further you'd like to add to this?
Mr. Chairman, I would expect that the administration will make some presentation on the need to pass this under suspension.
Okay. Who from the administration is available for this? Ruth? Good to see you.
Good evening, County Council. Ruth Gillette, Office of Homeless Services. Thank you very, very much for the opportunity to present this contract today. I distributed material to each of you prior to the meeting that provides background on the Shelter Plus Care program, its history in our community, and specific details related to Resolution 2014-0112. So very briefly, the reason the contract is being presented at this last minute prior to the start date of May 1st has to do with the unpredictability of the federal grant process. This grant and contract is funded through the HUD fiscal year 2013 budget. However, due to sequestration, which caused furloughs within the HUD offices and all federal government offices, and then the government actually shut down. Instead of, having this competitive grant process take place between June and October of 2013, the competitive grant process wasn't even released to the nation until the middle of November of 2013 and closed on February 3rd of 2014. So the awards were announced through the HUD website, one CPD, on March 22nd of 2014, which really didn't provide time for the Office of Homeless Services to go through the normal process of receiving a grant agreement from HUD, submitting that for a county appropriation, then once the appropriation was in place, submitting the contract. And so these dollars support rent subsidies on over 1,300 units for formerly homeless, disabled individuals. It's a renewal of funding, and so the rents will be due May 1st. And without the availability of the funds, the agency that provides the services would have to extend their line of credit on a month-to-month basis at an amount of over $800,000 a month. So I think that's or not pay the rents. So either of those options are not very desirable or reasonable. And so this is why it's being presented tonight. And again, really appreciate your being willing, and the Health and Human Services and Aging Committee heard this presentation this past week. So,
Are there any questions by the members about this?
Mr. Chairman,
Harrison?
clerk, can you add my name to this?
Oh.
And also, can you add me to 0109 as well, if appropriate?
Mr. Chair, I did want to say a few things in regards to this. In committee, I like the way that Director Gillette broke it down. She broke it down, you have the title Shelter Plus Care. Shelter meaning the initial assistance, and plus care meaning the in-kind assistance from the behavioral health agencies, which really gave us a breakdown of what that definition, shelter plus care, really meant. And she's, Director Gillette forgot to mention the overall goal for this contract. She was basically talking about the appropriation and how we got to this point. But the overall goal for this contract is, number one, the housing stability for the homeless population. 2, serving homeless persons with severe disabilities. And 3, not only, and she touched a little bit on this, not only assisting 1,200 people to receive rental assistance, but their organization, Eden, actually stretching these funds to include an additional 300 people, which bringing out of this the same amount of funding, they were able to stretch it to a total of 1,500 being served for rental assistance. So this committee recommends passage of this resolution. Now, I do want to share with Director Gillette, and I think you were in the audience, you may or may not have been when we heard public comment related
Yes.
to the agenda. So I would hope that you
Right.
connect with Reverend Pinckney about her concerns
Yeah.
for the rental assistance.
To the chair, Councilman Conwell, yes, I've already given, we've exchanged cards, and I'll be following up with the Reverend. Also, I want to acknowledge that Irene Collins, the CEO of Eden, is here, and I know that Irene will also be reaching out to Reverend Pinckney too.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. I just, having chaired the Health and Human Services Committee for the last 3+ years, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for the work that you've done. I've come to know and admire the work that you do, and it makes me very proud for the people of the county, for your services, and for what we're able to accomplish.
To the chair, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion. We do. We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll now revert back to 0110.
Resolution number 2014-0110, a resolution amending the 2014-2015 biennial operating budget for 2014 by providing for additional fiscal appropriations from the general fund and other funding sources, for appropriation transfers between budget accounts, and for cash transfers between budgetary funds in order to meet the budgetary needs of various county departments, offices, and agencies, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Councilman Miller.
Mr. Chairman and my colleagues, this resolution is routine, and it contains 2 significant items: an appropriation of $350,000 for the Group Plan Commission's work on Public Square, the malls, and related projects, as we previously approved in separate legislation, and the $257,000 in decertifications of old juvenile court contracts, which, along with our recent $250,000 appropriation, provides the needed resources for the hiring of additional detention officers. And I would also move to amend, and this amendment was requested by the administration, and it's to add an additional item for $10,348,968 for the shelter Care Plus program that we just passed under suspension. And I support this amendment for the reasons stated by Director Gillette and Councilwoman Conwell in their presentations. Thank you.
Seconded by Councilman Germana and several others. All right, well, any other discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
The amendment is adopted. Any discussion, any further discussion on the resolution? Hearing none. All those in favor of the resolution, please say aye. Aye. Resolution is adopted. We'll be skipping over 0111, which would have been an executive committee meeting that we ran out of time for in the work session and will take place on May the 13th? Yes. Right. Okay. We'll move on to consideration of resolutions for first reading and referral to committee.
Resolution number 2014-0113, a resolution amending resolution number 2013-0101 dated August 13th, 2013, which declared that public convenience and welfare requires widening and reconstruction of East 105th Street and intersecting streets from Quincy Avenue to Chester Avenue, Phase 1 Opportunity Corridor in the city of Cleveland, to add the state of Ohio as a party to agreements to be entered into pursuant to the resolution, and to clarify the funding arrangements in connection with the project, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
It's to be sent to Public Works.
2014-0114, a resolution making an award on requisition number 29436 to Shermer Construction in the amount not to exceed $612,351 for replacement of Boston Road culvert number 07.74 over an unnamed creek to the Rocky River in the city of Broadview Heights and Medina County, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, authorizing the county engineer on behalf of the county executive to make an application for allocation from county motor vehicle $7.50 license tax funds in the amount of $489,880.80 to fund said contract, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Be sent to Public Works.
Resolution number 2014-0115, a resolution adopting various changes to the Cuyahoga County non-bargaining classification plan and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Human Resources.
Resolution number 2014-0116, a resolution making an award on requisition number 27440 to AT&T Corporation in the amount not to exceed $1,418,820 for wide area network links for the period May 1, 2014 through December 31, 2018, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
So go to Finance.
Resolution number 2014-0117, a resolution making an award on requisition number 27440 to AT&T Corporation in the amount not to exceed $6,649,758.68 for wide area network and local area network equipment upgrades and services for the period May 1, 2014 through December 31, 2018, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Go to Finance.
Resolution number 2014-0118, a resolution making an award on requisition number 27440 to AT&T Corporation in the amount not to exceed $85,800 for internet service provider services for the period May 1, 2014 through December 31, 2018, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Finance.
Resolution number 2014-0119, a resolution making an award on requisition number 27440 to CareWorks Technologies Limited in the amount not to exceed $842,563.34 for DMZ and firewall security equipment and maintenance for the Regional Enterprise Data Sharing System for the period April 1, 2014 through March 31, 2019, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution will become immediately effective.
Finance.
Resolution number 2014-0120, a resolution authorizing a contract with BZT Acquisition in the amount not to exceed $798,000 for lease of space located at 75 Erie View Plaza, Cleveland, for operation of the Family Justice Center for the period June 1, 2014 through May 31, 2019, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with this resolution and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective. Additionally, Councilman Miller has requested to be a sponsor to this legislation.
Public Works.
Resolution number 2014-0121, a resolution authorizing amendments to contracts with various providers for placement services for the period October 1, 2011 through December 31, 2013, authorizing the county executive to execute the amendments and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective for the decreases and increases, the contracts and providers, and in the amounts not to exceed as printed on the agenda, items 9I and II.
Health and Human Services.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question about the previous one? Number 80120, it actually lists two committees, so I'm just wondering, it lists Public Works as well as Public Safety, so I'm just wondering if it'll be heard by both.
Councilwoman, these were the instructions that were left for me by the council president, and so I'm not going to override them. Okay.
Right, and even though both departments sponsored it, we've dealt with these lease agreements in our committee, so. Public Works is.
Obviously overlapping
And that's why.
issues.
Okay. Yes, that's why. Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Me. Resolution number 2014-0122, a resolution approving the Metro Health Systems request to establish and operate a healthcare facility in the city of Brunswick, Medina County, Ohio, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Health and Human Services. Okay, committee report and consideration of a resolution for second reading.
Resolution number 2014-0105, a resolution making an award on requisition number 27440 to TEC Communications Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $1,700,000 for wide area network and voice over internet protocol consultant services for the period May 1, 2014 through December 31, 2018, authorizing the county executive to execute the master agreement and contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
It's my understanding this item will be moved to the council agenda for third reading on the 13th of May. All right. Committee reports and consideration of resolutions for second reading adoption or suspension of rules.
Mr. Chairman, I move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Motion has been made to suspend the rules. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Rules are suspended.
Resolution number 2014-0104, a resolution authorizing an agreement with State of Ohio Office of the Auditor in the amount not to exceed $555,000 for an annual audit for calendar year 2013 for the period February 11, 2014 through December 31, 2014, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Motion has been moved by Councilman Miller and seconded by Councilman Sean, at least. Councilman Miller.
My colleagues, this resolution pays the auditor of state not to exceed $555,000 for our 2013 external audit, which is currently in progress. We're hoping this to be the first one in several years to be completed on time by September 30th, and I ask for your approval.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, hearing none, resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2014-0106, a resolution making an award on requisition number 29741 to Youth Opportunities Unlimited in the amount not to exceed $4,497,220 for the temporary assistance to needy families summer youth employment program for the period May 1, 2014 through October 31, 2014, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this award will enable over 2,200 youth this summer to receive employment at 550 work sites, and that is about 160 different employers that agreed to participate for this annual year. I suggested to the administration during committee that since we have extended our economic development loans to many businesses here in the county, that we should also engage them participating in hiring youth for summer employment. And I believe Mr. Gauntner said he would look into that. Roughly about $200,000 was cut from funding by the state of Ohio from last year. But the bright news is that if other counties do not utilize some of this funding, we have a chance to utilize remaining funds. This committee recommends passage for this resolution so our youth can work.
All right.
I'd like my name added.
Councilwoman Simon, what's your name added? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Resolution is adopted. Thank you, Councilwoman Conwell. All right, consideration of a resolution for third reading adoption.
Resolution number 2014-0040, a resolution authorizing a purchase and sale agreement with Playhouse Square Foundation in the amount of $1 for the sale of county-owned property commonly known as the Lowe's Building, located at 1501 Euclid Avenue, Cleveland, authorizing termination of the indenture of lease agreement as amended, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Been moved and seconded. We've had a lot of discussion on this resolution. Does anyone have anything further to add? No, hearing no further discussion. All those in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, resolution is adopted. Committee reports and consideration of resolutions for third reading adoption.
Resolution number 2014-0088, a resolution approving a qualified management agreement with Hilton Management relating to management of a convention center hotel, authorizing the county executive to execute a qualified management agreement, a technical services agreement, a pre-opening services agreement, a room block agreement, and all other documents consistent with this resolution, authorizing and approving related matters, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Schron and seconded by Councilwoman Conwell. We had a very thorough discussion in the work session and have had several other discussions over the last several weeks and months. Does anyone have anything that they would like to add before we have final passage of this very important resolution?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Greenspan
Great, thank you.
and Councilman Miller.
This will come as no surprise to my colleagues that although I support a convention center hotel, I don't support the county owning a convention center hotel. Experience has demonstrated that the challenges of St. Louis and Baltimore and their public opportunity to own what I would consider to be a private sector activity. I'm not in a position, nor would I feel compelled to expose the residents of this county to a multi-year, hundreds of millions of dollars in indenture on this note. And for that reason, I will not be supporting this, and I would urge my colleagues, this is the opportunity where we've always asked, when have we crossed a line where it's too far to go back? These votes today are that point, or is that point. So I would encourage my colleagues not to support this. Do not bind this county to over $270 million or $230 million, depending where the liability comes out, to this activity, which is clearly a private sector activity. And if the private sector felt that the timing was right to build this hotel, the private sector would interject and take our place in the market to provide such a facility. Thank you.
We appreciate the councilman's perspective. Councilman Miller.
Mr. Chairman and my colleagues, what I like about this project is that we're thinking big. Daniel Burnham, designer of Cleveland's original group plan, which the design of this hotel still reflects, said, "Make no small plans." This project further strengthens Cleveland's position as a medium-sized city with sports, arts, tourism, and hospitality facilities usually found in only very large cities. There are some unresolved questions, but I am confident that the management team we have in place can solve them, and I'm ready to move forward on this project. I acknowledge that there are legitimate questions about public versus private ownership, but I would point out that public ownership will enable us to align the purposes of the convention center and the hotel together very closely, producing what I feel will be an optimal result. Thank you.
Comments, Councilman Schron and Councilman Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will be supporting this because I believe it completes what we took the steps forward when we put forth the convention center. We then took the steps to finish it up with the Global Center for Health Innovation. We were successful in defeating Nashville and New York to be the only organization in the entire country to bring forth a unified message of the medical care being one of our key components to this county. Also, it then links the manufacturing components, and the hotel will finish off that because as one who travels to conventions throughout the world, have an opportunity to know that the Convention Center Hotel will be that third leg of the stool that finishes off this package. We have over 80 conventions already booked in our space, and as a result, this will be the iconic component that finishes it off. Are we taking a risk? Of course you do. But when we built the hotel to finish it off, it was a risk, but also when we built the convention center, it was a risk. And when we built the whole concept of being the Global Center for Health Innovation, but that's what big ideas are all about, and I would encourage my colleagues to support this.
Thank you. Councilwoman Simon.
Thank you. Yes, I support this resolution. I'd like my name added to it in the successing resolutions. There's no way that our convention center could be successful without having this hotel component. We explored initially the options for private ownership, and that did not come to fruition, and the county stepped up to take a bold step to make sure that our downtown will be transformed into something that we will be proud of down the road. So I support this and encourage my council members to do so as well.
Any further comment?
Please add my name.
Councilman Germana's name is added to the legislation. All those in favor of this resolution, please say aye. Aye. Resolution is adopted.
Against.
Opposed?
I thought he was going to change his mind.
Resolution number 2014-0089, a resolution authorizing an amendment to the design-build agreement with Turner Ozanne VAA, a joint venture, establishing a definitive guaranteed maximum price in the amount not to exceed $217,053,982 for design-build services for the Convention Center Hotel project for the period November 13, 2013 through September 1, 2016. Authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Resolution has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Councilman Schron.
Yes. What this is the culmination of, on the contractual side, when we as a council took a leadership role of creating construction reform for the first time of any county in the state of Ohio by putting in design, build, construction manager at risk, those components, and we are building that using those tools that did not exist before this body actually passed that. And because of that, we're going to be able to move forward on a faster pace, a quick design that runs simultaneously with the construction, and we'll be able to utilize those same dollar savings and those same opportunities that you would find in the private sector, and we're using those same tools here. And so I congratulate my colleagues 3 years ago for passing that legislation, and I encourage you to pass this as the culmination of actually seeing those laws go into effect as to how we put forth this building.
Further comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Resolution is adopted. There?
Opposed?
Oh, and I'm sorry. I've gotten so used to it at this point. It's like, and the dissenting vote is noted. Go ahead.
Resolution number 2014-0090, resolution providing for the acquisition by lease purchase of real property, including a convention center hotel facility, authorizing a lease purchase agreement with respect to the convention center hotel facility, authorizing and approving other documents relating to the convention center hotel facility and financing thereof, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Moved by Councilwoman Conwell, and I'll second it. Is there any further discussion? This is the third leg of the stool, and these three pieces. We had a good discussion earlier today and many times before that. Any further comment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right.
And Mr. Chairman, you can add my name to all three.
All right, Councilman Jones wants his name added to all three pieces of legislation. We are building a new hotel. Consideration of an ordinance for first reading and referral to committee.
Ordinance number 2014-0014, an ordinance establishing the Cuyahoga County Property Demolition Fund and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Moved, seconded.
It's being referred to committee.
Yes. It's okay, yeah.
I rescind my second from following Anthony.
No, from direction of Mr. Jones.
What I do.
Councilman is very spirited.
My senior colleague.
All right, that's okay. This is, I have been instructed to send this to the committee of the whole. And obviously, this is going to be a very interesting discussion, and will take some time. Consideration of an ordinance for third reading adoption.
Ordinance number 2014-0011, an ordinance amending Chapter 705 of the Cuyahoga County Code to establish payment procedures for connection charges collected for connection to county's water and sewer facilities in County Sewer District Number 14 and Cook, McKenzie, and Stearns Roads. Amending Cuyahoga County Resolution Numbers 052208 and 052209, each dated June 2nd, 2005, and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved and seconded. Any comment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Resolution is adopted. Miscellaneous committee reports, starting down here on the right.
Thank you, Madam, Mr. Chair. On May 5th, we'll be having a committee meeting to discuss proposed charter amendments.
Council?
Can I ask colleague Greenspan where they're at, on which amendments are?
Yep, these amendments today will be various amendments relating to conflicts of interest regarding composition of various boards, and we'll be bringing up your proposals at the next meeting.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
All right.
Economic Development's going to meet on the 5th at 3 o'clock to pick up the items.
All right, do we want to? Yeah, it's okay. I'm just trying to keep things straight.
Mr. Chairman and my colleagues, Finance and Budget will meet not this coming Monday, but a week from Monday. on May the 5th at 1 p.m. That slot seems to fit better with schedules. We have plenty of business that was sent over today. And also, Finance and Budget is going to meet at a special time on Wednesday, May the 14th at 11 o'clock. And this will be for purposes of the first quarter review. There were serious conflicts with the regular times that we would have met, but this time seems to work pretty well.
Thank you, Councilman. Health and Human Services will meet on Wednesday, April the 30th, to take up the legislation that was introduced today.
Sorry about rushing, but the Economic Development will meet on May 5th at 3 o'clock.
And Public Works will meet Wednesday.
Rules around here.
Human Resources Appointment and Equity, I know I usually don't meet, but I will be meeting on the 29th at 10 a.m.
In 8 days, Public Works will meet on Wednesday, April 30th at 11 a.m. to deal with the items referred today.
All right. No more miscellaneous. Do we have any miscellaneous business by any members of the council that they'd like to bring forward? Hearing none. Any public comment unrelated to the agenda?
I believe Reverend Pinckney would like to address council on an item unrelated to the agenda.
If I can just interject before the Reverend starts to speak, and she can still come up, just a reminder, Child Abuse Prevention Month tomorrow. And let's all wear blue. Thank you.
Councilwoman? Ms.
Good
Pinckney?
evening, once again.
Good to see you.
County Councilman Brady, you are indeed a gentleman and a scholar, and I appreciate you.
Maybe.
Please let
Maybe.
Councilwoman President kindly know she was missed today. I came to you, I'll wait till he finishes. I came to you this evening with the concerns of bridging gaps, but I also came because I made a very bold but very humble statement to you all last month regarding some things even facing my life, some challenges that I must face, or that I have had to face. But before I go there, I noticed that you remove prayer, but you still implement pledges before you start your meeting, and I would ask that you would reconsider that, because you'd make no decisions without help from above. And the truth has made me free, and that's why I'm standing here. Since I left here, on last week, someone invaded my home again. I have had someone who has been breaking into my home for several years now. And last week, when I was dropped off by my mother at my home, my back door was locked, and someone locked my door and went out the front door. I have filed multiple police reports and done multiple things. But I'm very concerned about this, because anytime I'm not home safe in my own hometown and in my own homeland, then we have some very serious difficulties, especially when we're exchanging funds and allocating funds for people to be safe, for people to have proper housing, proper medical concerns, and proper needs to be met. I would like for it to cease, and I would like whoever's doing it to cease and desist their behavior. I had gone to one of the official courts, and one of the magistrates in the court, when I told him what was going on, he told me, if I die, I'm just dead, so what? Nobody cares about my life. I'm very concerned that someone like that would have someone's life in their hands. I'm also very concerned that a judge ordered a hit on my life from a bench, because I told him that my children and I were not niggers born to serve men, because a preacher stated that we are, and I told him that that would never be the case. And he stated that he told someone to come to Ohio to proceed against me, and things are in place for him to do so. And since then, I have been beat up by police, my home invaded, and many other things. Some of you in this room know who my family is, and they have opened many doors and sacrificed many days to help many people, not just in this room, but not just in this city, and not just in this station, in this state, but in this nation. And I would ask that you work along with Council President Conley and others to see what can be done, because I find that when people commit crime, when they steal, lie, kill, it's because they have something wrong that's going on in their own lives. And I pray that this will cease and desist. I have been working with Mr. Warner to try to get some resolve, because someone told some dishonest things about me, and it caused some very serious difficulties. And as I take my seat, the sin tax, it is a sin tax, and we need to be looking at some ways to heal people other than through alcohol, guns and tobacco. I'll be glad when we stop producing guns. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman, did you have something that under miscellaneous that you wanted to say?
Mr. Mowry won his.
Well, let the,
Mr. Mowry, why don't you come up here and explain to us what you won? I read something about it, but it wasn't in the sports page. Being from that tree of the low-hanging fruit, I don't go beyond the sports page.
No, thank you very much. It was an honor last week to receive the CIO of the Year Award through Crane's Business. I got the CIO Award for the large nonprofit. So thank you very much for your.
congratulations.
I just wanted to congratulate Jeff. There's actually a specific technique that he invented that he was given credit for. It's when your computer isn't working, you turn it on and turn it back. You turn it off, turn it back. He was the first person to come up with that. And he was finally recognized for that.
How often that works?
Well, very good. All right. All right. I'd like to move to adjourn this meeting, and all those in favor say aye. Thank you.
Aye.
All right, meeting is adjourned.
Good job, good job.